Well, hello, friends. Welcome to episode 3 of my podcast, Sloan Talks, you guys. The new series is called Waves, and there are 2 previous episodes before this one, and you're listening to episode 3. The title of this episode is called Driven, and you're listening to Sloan Talks. So, what is going on? For the first 2 episodes, I gave you guys this is a serious topic, right? So, this is about my health that I'm currently going through. Like, I'm still going through it. I still don't have really an answer. But what I'm doing on these episodes is I'm breaking everything down step by step, right? So, we're going to go through eventually lab results and MRI scans, what we ruled out, what we didn't rule out. All that is coming up in the upcoming season of this. So the first 2 episodes, I talked about my first experience. And then the second episode was about my night walks. So now this one is going to be called Driven. And we're going to talk a little bit about driving and how my life has changed. So, from episode 1, if you haven't listened, go and listen now. I'll pause for a moment so you can go and listen to that and come back here. So basically episode 1, which was my first quote episode of Vertigo, I was in a car and I was a passenger in the car. And what happened was, since that quote attack happened to me, a lot of doctors thought it was a panic attack. So I worked with a therapist, you guys, who, and I guess this can come up in this, episode, who was trying to connect my symptoms to fear of being in a car. So we went through all of the typical questions. Have you ever been in a car accident? And to that moment, no, I had not. I had not been in a car accident at that point. And so I told her no. And she's like, well, anything traumatic from being in a car? And I was like, well, when I was little, my papa, he was driving, and then I was in the back seat on the passenger side. I remember one time we were taking my auntie home, and she had come to visit my grandparents, and I was in the back with my cousin, and my papa turned down one of the little side streets to take her home, and a car backed out and hit my side. So the passenger side door in the back was hit, and it was me that was on that side. And I remember being scared, and I remember crying hysterically, you guys, because I'm a crier. I still am one now. But I was a crier, and I remember being scared from it, but it wasn't, to me, something I thought I internalized. I didn't think I was traumatized from being in a car. I was it just happened. I was probably I think I was 7, because I moved out of my grandparents' house. My mom used to live with my granny and papa. That's her biological parents. So we used to live with them until I was 9. And when we were 9, we moved to the suburbs away from the city. And so my grandparents live in the city. Okay. So that had to be before I turned 9. So I was 7. I know they say that your first memory is when you're 7 years old. And so I guess that's a good memory for me. I remember exactly how it happened. I know the color of my papa's car was red. I think it was a Chrysler, and the inside of the car was a red velvet. I remember everything, and I remember getting hit. I remember being terrified that the car just backed up blindly, and my papa got hit. I just remember that story. And so, but I guess I was fine. I don't remember much of it, just that we got hit. So when this came up recently with my therapist, I was like, well, that's the only accident I've ever gotten into, and I was a little kid, and I kind of don't remember much about it. And she's like, well, maybe that's something that you're internalizing. Let's talk about it. And I was like, okay, whatever you say, ma'am. And so we started there. So, was I having panic attacks because I was all of a sudden remembering being in a car and having traumatic an event in the car? And so we went that route. But for I don't even remember, you guys, this must have been 6-7 months. It was hard for me to, how do I say this? So I couldn't be a passenger. That was set. I could not be a passenger in a car. So I would drive, but it was hard for me to actually drive because I felt like I was losing my balance. I think you don't really know how much of your balance is used in small tasks, like driving a car. Like, I'm not balancing on a beam. Like, why would I feel uneasy holding onto a steering wheel and pushing the gas and the brake? Turning corners, stopping at the stop sign, turning my neck to look right, turning right, pulling out of a parking spot, turning my neck to back out. It looks like all those pieces of your body are like moving. And like with this vestibular issue that I'm having, it's like my brain and my body are like two separate things. My brain, body, and eyes, they're all not together, right? It's like my brain is in freaking, I don't know, Caribbean island somewhere, okay? My body is like in Alaska, okay? And then my brain is like in Malaysia. You know what I mean? Like, it's like totally different parts of my body. They're all not even operating together at this point, and it's stressful and frustrating me. You know what I mean? So I ended up being able to get through feeling weird while driving at about month 9 months in. So, of course, I'm like, well, I feel a little bit comfortable driving. So now let's try and be a passenger again. It's not. And at that point, of course, we thought it was fear, but we ruled that out, that it's not fear. I tried the deep breathing exercises. I tried grounding techniques. I've tried all that to be a passenger, and I literally feel like my eyes were not tracking. So then we found out this is a physical thing. So I went to physical therapy for that eye tracking thing, where they would have me look at 2 Post-it notes, A and B, and be like, okay, now I want you to, with only your eyes, look at A, look at B, and go back and forth. And then they would take one Post-it away and be like, okay, now here is one Post-it that says A. I want you to turn your head to the right and left, but keep your eye on the sticky note and don't move your eye. Like, keep your eye on the sticky. So I would look straight at the letter A, move to the right, move to the left, move to the right, move to the left. See how many times I can do that without feeling sick. Sometimes I didn't get past 6 times and I would feel sick and have to take a break. My body would feel like I was walking in the dark. That's the only thing I can explain it to. I'm physically sitting in a seat, but my body feels like I'm standing up and walking through the dark, like at night when you're like going to the restroom at night. That's kind of like what that felt like. So I made an effort and said, okay, I'm going to try and be a passenger. And I remember doing it probably in June of 2024. I got in the car and I was like, let's try this. My husband was like, we'll just drive around the block. Not very far. If you don't feel well, that way we'll be close to home. I was like, yeah, let's try that. So I get in the car and it's like everything hits me. It's like the windshield, everything just looks like blurry and everything looks larger. And I kept saying, why does the right side of the car feel different than the left side? The passenger seat feels way different than the driver's seat. And it's not just like how your foot is on the gas and on the brake. It literally just feels like you are sunken in a deep hole. And I can't really describe that. I don't know why passenger seat feels so off. I even say, you know what, I'm going to like just zone myself out, which, by the way, you guys, I could not listen to music for at least 12 months. So for 1 year in the car, I didn't listen to music because the sound would bounce off and it would make my ear vibrate. And so I just have like on my my left ear has this weird like underwater sound where it's like where sound would vibrate and make it go woo, 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 woo. Like that's the sound that I hear in my left ear. So I told myself, let's go. Get in there, no music, okay, very quiet. But I was like, let's get in there and see if I can drive. And I could not be a passenger. I couldn't. The turns were like the deepest turns ever. My eyes were tracking away from the turns. We would turn down a street. I'd feel like my eye would be on the street before. It was like I was like physically lagging. That's what it felt like. So because of that, I can't drive. I mean, I can't be a passenger. I have to drive everywhere. So if you're listening to this and you are a part of my Sloanie besties, it's information that you probably didn't know. But fun fact is that I've actually haven't been a passenger in 2 full years, and that for my live streams, I drive everywhere. This means that I drive sometimes 2 hours to go live. I'll go live for 12 hours, and then I have to drive 2 hours back home. So, for example, we went to Runway a few days ago, you guys, and it was such a great experience. But that drive home physically made me sick. I didn't feel well. The drive back from Runway is very windy. When we came there, it was still sunlight out, so I didn't have a problem with the winding roads. Another thing that's changed is I used to have a problem with trees. So the sunlight that's peeking through leaves when you're on a long road and you get like blink, 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 blink. I think you don't realize how much that affects like vestibular, like eyesight until you actually have that problem. So the light coming through the leaves used to drive me into pure nausea. And now I can handle the lights coming through the leaves, but I can't handle night driving. Night driving is completely difficult for me, and I experienced it again a few days ago coming from Runway. So we went live at Runway. It was our second store of the day. Everything was fine. I get in the car and I'm driving and like the main road, which has like street lights and lights, which is fine. But then that road with all the trees is super windy. Like we were like right, left, super windy. We're going downhill. I was like, oh my gosh. And it just was a lot on me, like my vestibular system, like my eyes, my ear, my inner ear, my body. And when we got down to the bottom of the hill, I mean, thank goodness Mr. Sloan had to go and get my daughter some stuff. She was having a party at school or something. We had to run into like the supermarket to get her chips or something for her class. So we go there and I do breathing techniques while he's inside the store. I'm like literally just breathing it out, trying to like calm myself down because we were not home yet. We had just gotten to the bottom of the hill of Runway and I still had about an hour to drive home. It's not like I could be like, oh, you know what? Just let Mr. Sloan drive you home and you close your eyes. I'm sorry. That sounds like a nightmare. Being a passenger, nightmare. Closing my eyes, also nightmare. Passenger with my eyes closed, nightmare. Driving at night, being a passenger at night, triple nightmare. You know what I'm saying? It's just all these things. It's all of the things. So we are, I'm in the parking lot. I'm relaxing. I was able to calm myself down, sip on water. And I was like, this must be like that my husband, I didn't tell him. By the way, I told you guys in another podcast that I don't tell my husband when I don't feel well because I feel like he will trigger me into a spiral of a full-blown panic attack. I know you guys are like, oh my gosh, he's so calm. He's not calm. He will make me spin out. If I say, oh, I think I hurt my foot. You hurt your foot. Oh my God. It's like, whoa. So he's like that person that I don't tell I don't feel well because I know he'll make it worse. So I am in the parking lot. I don't say anything. He comes out with like these, like, I forget what they're called. They're like Mentos candy, but they're sweet. They're not like minty. They're the Mentos candies that's like fruit. He brings it out. He's like, oh yeah, I know you like these. And he hands it to me. And I was like, was it not like perfect? Like, don't they say that in the middle of a panic attack or the middle of feeling anxiety, you should eat sour candies? Perfect. Perfection. I say nothing. I go, oh, thanks. And I just start eating it. And of course, it calmed me down. So eating the sugary, I don't know if it was the sugar, I don't know what it was, but the Mentos helped to calm me down, that I was able to finish the drive. I drove all the way home and I felt okay to drive home because now I was on the freeway where there's like more cars and more lights and there's like buildings and like it's a full city like on the right and left of me. So it was like just pure lights. That darkness is what I'm convinced had driven me to like feel that woozy feeling because I can't see. I already feel like I'm blind when lights are on. And so with lights off, I feel more blind. But yeah, like for 8 months, you guys, I wasn't even feeling comfortable driving. I would, in 8 months in the beginning, right? I probably drove like 4 times. So it was very, very difficult. It has changed my life tremendously, not being able to be a passenger. I know it, you may not realize it, but, like there was something that happened where it's like, oh, we have to go and like get a rental, but like we didn't have our second car. And I remember being like, oh, you can just tell Mr. Sloan, just go ahead and go to the rental place. And he's like, well, just come with me. We'll just get an Uber. I can't drive an Uber, you guys. I can't ask the driver, can I drive your car? And then I remember it's like saying this, and this was what happened in the way beginning, you guys, when we did have to get a rental. This was like probably earlier in the year. I think when Mr. Sloan came back from his vacation, we had to get a rental. This was after the car issues we've been having with our car accident. But I remember going and being like, oh, I guess I can be, I can try this and see. I haven't been a passenger in a long time, so let's see if we can do this. So I get the Uber and I was like, I'll go with you. We'll go to, rent the car together. And the car pulls up, you guys, and the Uber is a Tesla. So here I am. I've never been in a Tesla before. Okay. And I feel like sometimes when I see things on TikTok, they're sent to me for a reason. I remember getting like a TikTok 2 days before that was like, POV, you have car sickness and you are in a Tesla. So yeah, I didn't really watch that because I was like, oh, I don't have car sickness. I just have vestibular issues. You guys, the Uber driver came to pick us up. We sit in the back seat. It was the absolute worst experience I've ever had in my freaking life. The windows on a Tesla are magnified. They are. I don't know what science they put into that car, but it was magnified on all edges, okay? All the windows, the windshield, the front windshield. I couldn't even look straight to calm myself down because it was so blurry and like magnified. The window looks like it's 44 inches thick. It was like I was literally inside a magnifying glass. And he had a sunroof. So the sunroof was magnified. I was like, you guys, I get to and I was like, I got some sipping water. I feel so sick. I feel so woozy in that back seat. It was the worst experience ever. It was probably a 6-minute drive that felt like it was 777 minutes of a drive, okay? It was miserable. So we finally get to the rental car place and I get there and I just sit. I don't tell Mr. Sloan anything. I get there and I sit right in the like little, what's it called? In the waiting room. And I'm just sitting there with my head back. That's it. I was quiet. I just had to take my moment to be quiet. It took me probably like, thank goodness they were like, oh, we didn't expect you. We have to get your car ready. Thank goodness. It took like 10 minutes. And of course, I was not a passenger on the rental. I had to drive the rental back because I cannot be a passenger. And that Tesla triple proved, despite I know Teslas are like the worst car to be in when you have vestibular issues. So shout out to TikTok for trying to warn me about that 3 days before it happened. But yeah, if you have any sort of motion sickness, morning sickness, any sort of nausea or eye problems, yeah, Teslas are like the worst. I could not, and closing my eyes would have made it worse. So yeah, that's where I was. It was just like a really horrible experience. So I drove, of course, we did not rent a Tesla. We rented a Toyota. But yeah, I drove that car back because I was like, there's no way I can be a passenger. And it was like horrible. And this was recently, you guys. The 2 stories I'm telling about Runway was like last week. And then the story about the Tesla Uber was like in January. And we're in March right now. So this is pretty recent episodes that I've had of like this nausea feeling of being in the car. So yeah, it's changed a lot. At one point, I could not drive to pick my kids up from school. You know, and I remember being able to do it finally. So the end of the school year, I couldn't pick them up. Throughout the summer, I could not. And I would do like small little things. Like if my kid needed to go somewhere, I could like take a small trip to drop my daughter off at work or something. But other than that, I was not driving a car. In fact, doing personal shopping, you guys, it's like the furthest I've driven since I've had this condition. So the 2-hour drives is the most I have been driving since I've had, this vertigo issue. Yeah, this is it. I haven't even been to some like local cities around me in 2 years. I remember telling somebody that like, oh, I haven't been to that city in 2 years. This girl's like, what? And of course, I just met one of the moms that my son, plays sports with. I can't just start telling her all my problems. But basically, I can't drive because of vertigo. Can't be a passenger. That's out. So yeah, so I think it adds a big stress to my life. I don't think you realize I've been driving since I think I was 17. So it's a part of like my independence that was stripped away from me because of vertigo, that now I'm like at the mercy of how far can I drive? Like the sky's not the limits. I can just go wherever. Not anymore. No, I'm going for work, but I'm not going for like fun or like pleasure or anything. And I try to make my life as normal as possible so my kids are not like affected by it. So like we'll go to like, probably in the past 2 years, we've gone to like maybe 2 or 3 festivals or like fairs and like parades and stuff. And I can't, because even if I do drive our family to the place, when I get there, it may be like, super busy environments cause vertigo, like all these things where it's like you have to anticipate how you'll feel when you get to a certain environment. And that is super debilitating too. But anyway, that's a different story for a different time. So that is what I'm going through with driving. It is something I think that is not caused by any sort of like therapy that I need to go through. It's literally like a physical therapy. So it's not like a mental or like a childhood trauma that I'm like resurfacing in my body. No, I think that was just literally like, my vertigo, whatever's causing it. That's one of the symptoms of it. So I am in the middle of finding out a lot of stuff. And I'm so glad that I have this podcast to talk to you guys and that we can share each other's experiences. And there's a lot more to talk about, you guys. I'm so glad that you guys have joined me. Comment below on this amazing journey I'm taking you guys on. This is the most personal journey, okay? The first season was Nailgate. That is also here, so you can listen to me either on my Spotify. If you're listening here, thank you so much. Comment below. Let me know you're listening on Spotify. And if you are over on my YouTube channel, Sloan Talks, let me know that you're over on my YouTube channel. Comment below and let me know. All right, you guys, that is the end of Driven. I can't wait to be a passenger. I remember, you guys, and I remember being a passenger, and this is like 2 years ago, so it sounds like, girl, what are you talking about? But I remember being a passenger and just like being able to disconnect for a minute and like look out the window. And I haven't been able to do that in 2 years, and I miss that a lot. It's just so relaxing and calming. Just having Mr. Sloan drive me, 10 out of 10. Would recommend. But now I'm driving him. So he's basically a passenger princess. And I've been driving him for 2 years. And I think he's over it. But what can we do until I get solid answers? So stay tuned, you guys. Stay tuned. I'm going to be talking about in episode 4 all of the medical tests, okay, and scans and blood work and what we have ruled out. So the next episode will be more health focused. And also, you guys, I am not a medical professional, so how did you know? Are you sure you're not a nurse? So anything I say, you guys, it's just the things that I remember my doctor telling me. So RNs, please don't come for me, okay? CPAs, RN, doctors and nurses and dentists, okay? Don't come for me if I get stuff wrong in the next episode. I do not know medical terminology and stuff, so bear with me on that one. But thank you for listening, friends. I appreciate you guys. I think we've had an amazing season so far, and I'm excited to share more information with you. Also, there are things that are developing in real time, so that's, I guess, something to look forward to. So I guess I will have more information as more tests are done on me, but I do have things coming up medically that they want to test me for. So we shall see. And I guess just having hope that one day I will feel better. One day I will be normal, right? I guess that's what I'm holding on to hope for. So if you're listening to this message and you too are battling health, I know I have a lot of besties. I am a personal shopper. If you are here on my podcast listening to me from maybe Spotify or YouTube and don't know, but I do live stream personal shopping, and the community is full of amazing men and women. Some of them are battling health issues as well. So I'm sending heart out to you guys. Hearts, love, good vibes and kisses and healing to all of you guys. And I hope that you guys have an amazing day and that you guys start to feel better. And we have to stay positive, and we have to move on, and we have to take it what everyone says, which is day by day. I used to dwell on the day before. If I was super sick the day before, I'd be like, oh gosh, I was so sick yesterday. Now it's like, I'm ready for the new day to start. I'm ready for a do-over. So you too are ready for your do-over. And you are listening to Sloan Talks.